Welcome back, everybody. It's the Betting Pros College Football Preview Show, and we are here to do some conference championships. Only 10 games to pick from. That is what we are going to do here today. You can follow us all on Twitter, at Bogman Sports for myself, at Thor KU for Thor, and at M Farrell Sports, 2 R's, 2 L's for Mike. Before we dive into conference championships, the season is over. The regular season is over, guys. It is depressing. It goes so fast every single year. But Thor, I'll start with you. Your reflections of the last week of the regular season and just the regular season as a whole as we move on to conference championships and bowl season.
Yeah, we didn't get as much chaos as we thought, especially down the stretch, but there just wasn't a lot of upsets. Thought we were going to get one on Saturday, a big one with Auburn over Alabama, and obviously that didn't, that grave digger and all that sort of stuff. And we'll see now with conference championship week. We might get some chaos here. The market is already indicating that it thinks some chaos is going to happen in terms of the rankings and stuff like that. So that'd be one thing to keep an eye on. But that was the one surprising thing to me about this season.
Mike, the season comes to a close, and last week, we saw one of the craziest plays ever in that 4th and 30 touchdown conversion from Bama. It was insane. So your thoughts on last week and in the season as a whole as we move to the postseason here?
Well, there was a pretty big game between Michigan and Ohio State, which is there's a lot to unpack there. Ryan Day has lost his last 3 games to Ohio State. He's 1-6 versus top 5 teams now, and now the fans there's a lot of unrest there. He's on a hot seat heading into next season. I don't care what anybody says. He's on a hot seat. If he doesn't beat Michigan again, this time and loses 4 straight, he's gone. It's just going to happen. And then the Auburn-Alabama game was very interesting to me. I took Alabama to cover. Obviously, that didn't happen, but Thor took that win-loss under.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, okay, they're not going to win this game. They're gonna lose to Alabama, but it's going to be closer than we thought. And then when they had the chance to win it, you get the muff punt, and then you get the idiotic decision to rush to and spy. Why are you spying?
Just go after him.
You're wasting a player. So you eliminated one player because spying a quarterback on 4th and goal from the 31 does you no good whatsoever. There's literally 8 other guys down near the goal line that can come up and make a tackle before the 5-yard line. It was just the most idiotic thing I've ever seen. And Thor's bet, I don't know how much you put on it. He doesn't want to share that, I'm sure, but that was right there because that should have been a ticket cash.
It should have been a push off too. I think maybe a little bit. They're fighting down there, so I don't mind a no call there, to be honest. But that one looked. I think if I was a ref, I probably would have thrown a flag on that. So, but yes, a very interesting season, and like you guys both said, way less chaos, way less big upsets. I think we're going to have them in bowl season, though. So I think we're going to have some fun here, and I can't wait till we get 12 teams in the playoff, hopefully next year. And is that definitely happening next year, or is that we all assume it's happening next year?
No, expanded playoffs coming next year.
Okay. Yeah, yep. I just couldn't remember. There's so many things with changing conferences and the transfer portal and all that. I can't keep up with all the changes. So, but I'm really excited for that because I won't be sitting here nervous waiting for somebody else to lose for Texas to get into the playoff. So if they're even in that position next year, but we will see. Let's look forward to the conference championship. Before we get to it, I got to tell you guys to join the Betting Pros College Football Podcast betting group. Make your picks all season long. If you're among the top ROI performers, you could win big. Prizes included Garrett Wilson signed Ohio State jersey and premium subscriptions to Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. It was make 100 picks before the season, but I think that we also might be doing a bowl pick'em. So pay attention to that. We're going to see how we're going to work that out, but that should be coming pretty soon. But the Betting Pros app is amazing. You should get on it, and it's not just for college football. It's for basketball, NFL, baseball, whatever you got. So check it out when you can. Let's go to the Conference USA Championship on Friday in Lynchburg, Virginia. It is New Mexico against Liberty. 10.5 is the spread here in favor of Liberty. 54.5 is the total here. Thor, are you on New Mexico State or Liberty in this game?
Man, New Mexico State, they just keep overcoming circumstance, don't they? And they just keep winning. This is another one where I don't like the matchup for New Mexico State. So, I would be leaning towards Liberty here. And the reason why is New Mexico State's run defense is super poor. 100th in success rate, 117th opportunity rate, 131st power success rate, 102nd stuff rate. Of course, I brought this up when I was talking about New Mexico State against Jacksonville State last week. What happened in that game? Jacksonville State only ends up rushing for 85 yards in a game. They lose 20-17. What happened was New Mexico State comes out, punches them in the mouth, and New Mexico State was up 17-3 at halftime. So Jacksonville State had to throw out their normal game script. Zion Webb, who cannot throw, threw 30 times in that game, and he was picked off twice. They threw the ball more than they ran the ball, which Jacksonville State hadn't done yet this year. Can Liberty stay on schedule with their awesome rushing attack to be able to attack the weakness of New Mexico State? I would think so. If I had to play one side in this one, it would be Liberty.
Mike, when you look at this game, is it? I mean, I love this. I love this coaching matchup, Chadwell and Kill. I mean, it's just going to be a great one here. But I mean, can you take New Mexico State plus the points, or are you going to lay the points to take Liberty?
I'm going to take the over.
All right.
It'll be a higher scoring game. I like Liberty. I think they're a very good program. Obviously, Chadwell is a guy who's on the come up and will get the appropriate job that he wants. I think he's sort of playing it smart, picking and choosing, going from Coastal to Liberty to, he doesn't want to get into a bad situation, but he's going to be a Power 5 coach. Jerry Kill has been a Power 5 coach, and a pretty good one at that, and a tremendous game planner, a guy who does tremendous in-game adjustments. I mean, Thor knows all about him, obviously, the Minnesota dude. But I'm going the over. I would lean New Mexico State. I was impressed with what they did to Auburn. I was impressed with what they did last week. I think this guy's a great coach. I think he can keep this game close, but I'm going to say it's going to be higher scoring. 54.5 is the over. Give me the over.
All right. Let's move on down here to the Pac-12 championship in Las Vegas, Nevada. Number 6 versus number 4. Oregon is a 9.5 point favorite. 66.5 is the total. Tickets on Washington, cash on Oregon, cash and tickets both on the under in this game, a little surprisingly. But Mike, when you look at the Pac-12 championship, are you leaning towards Oregon, or is this Washington beating them again?
I'm going to take the over. I'm not really sure why it's 66.5. Not that that's a low number.
And the public's all on the under.
I know. I don't understand what's changed. I get it. Washington at the time against Oregon looked undefeatable. Their offense was unstoppable. They've had some hiccups. They've struggled in some games. Oregon's offense has gotten better since that game. But to me, this is going to be a shootout. I would lean towards Washington covering just because 9.5 seems quite a bit. And I don't think these teams are that far apart. I mean, people talk about Oregon being the best Pac-12 team, but they lost to Washington. And that's a fact. And that's just the way it is. Washington has struggled a little bit, but I still think that they can keep this within 9.5. But I'm going over. If you said this, was the over under, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, you would hammer the over. So now, just because Washington struggled a little bit offensively, we're going under. I'm going over.
I like it. Thor, do you have a good lean one way or the other in this Pac-12 championship?
Same as Farrell. I'm on the over as well. These two teams played already. That one was 69 points total. Nice. 36-33. And by the way, that was, with how many fourth downs did Oregon go for and then didn't get it? Right? Like,
I think 5.
Yeah, exactly.
5.
There was a lot of points that were left on the board in that game. And because these two teams have familiarity with each other, they're not going to be afraid of each other. There will be no feeling out period like the old Floyd Mayweather in the first round where he just dances around, whatever. These two teams are going to go right after each other. Yeah. And Washington has the terrible run defense. Oregon's the efficiency machine, so they have their path to points. Washington, nobody stops Washington's offense. So that's where I think this is. The spread, as crazy as it looks at at first, like I even got some sticker shock when I saw this thing come out. The more I look at this thing, unless this thing gets to double digits, that's where I would consider taking Washington. But if it stays in this weird zone where it is, I'm going to be staying away from the side. But I agree with Farrell. I'm on the over.
All right. Yeah. Our boy Froton is going to that game. So he will be there in person. I will be there in person for Oklahoma State versus Texas in the Big 12 championship in Arlington at Jarrett World. The line here is Texas by 14.5. 55.5 is the total on this game. Public is slightly leaning towards Texas on both sides, tickets and cash. Tickets and cash are also both slightly on the over. So while we do have definitive Texas in the over in this game, it's a little dicey here, Thor. Which way are you leaning?
Texas all the way. On Sunday, on the Sunday show, we do that, with Welsh and the aforementioned Froton, right when the lines are dropping. This thing, it initially came out earlier that afternoon at 11.5. When we got on that show, it was 12.5. And I locked in my bet on Texas at that number. And I said, this thing's going to be at 14.5 in a snap. And that's exactly where we are now. My line on this one with adjustments has moved up to Texas minus 16.9. So honestly, even at 14.5, I'd still be back in Texas. I back Texas all the way up to 17. There's a couple different things going on here. First of all, Oklahoma State got here by playing this soft, Charmin soft schedule. They caught the Big 12 schedule about as easy as you can possibly get it. Avoided the good teams, including Texas. The only good one they had to play was Oklahoma. They obviously won a coin flip in that one to get here. But then they're a one-trick pony kind of a team, Oklahoma State is, with just the running game. When they can't run, they can't throw either. Ollie Gordon's been awesome this year, but now Ollie Gordon has to go up against arguably the best run defense in the nation. If it's not, it's certainly top 3. And Texas has the best defensive front in the nation. Just a bunch of beasts up there, and they go too deep, so they can bring in waves of guys and different stuff like that. Texas shuts out the lights on every running game, and Oklahoma State doesn't have an offense when they can't run. So they are in all kinds of trouble here. Again, Bowman, when they need to ask him to throw, which they're going to have to do here because they're going to be down by double digits pretty quickly here, that spells problems for him too. I think Texas flips the field on him a couple times. I think this is a big problem. And then the last point I'll make about it, this game is being played at noon Eastern is when the kickoff is. The other important games that Texas, will be, watching or the scoreboard watching, whatever, those games occur later in the day, right? Like the SEC championship game begins 4 hours later. The ACC championship begins 8 hours later. Texas in this game, they don't need to scoreboard watch as it's going. All they need to do is put up fireworks and impress the committee. I think this is one where they go out and absolutely destroy Oklahoma State, make a statement.
Farrell, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I originally when I saw the 14 and a hook, I was like, Gundy's a good coach. He is a guy who can probably keep them close, but the more I look at the matchup, I just don't like it. Everything Thor said, Oklahoma State has to run the football. If they can't run the football, they will get crushed. Example of that, they South Alabama. And this was when Gordon wasn't running the football, but
and also UCF, Mike. That game was played in rain, but Ollie Gordon couldn't get going, and Oklahoma State's entire offense went away.
Yeah, 25 yards in that game. Lose 45-3. Like if they can't run, they're going to get destroyed. He was their saving grace, of course, against BYU. He's been their saving grace against every team. They've kind of beaten some crappy teams, and they've done it in less impressive fashion. The Bedlam game, obviously that was an impressive win. But, beating BYU in 2 overtimes, beating Houston by 3, none of this impresses me. So I just don't think matchup-wise, Texas is very strong up front. They're going to load the box and say, Alan Bowman, you got to beat us. He's not going to be able to do it, and I think they're going to.
Good luck.
I hope you guys are right. I'm excited for it. Can't wait to go. Let's go to the MAC championship here in Detroit, Miami, Ohio versus Toledo. The line is Toledo by 7.5. 44.5 is the total, and the cash is way on the under and way on Miami in this game. Farrell, are you on Miami as well and the under here?
I'm on the under. I would actually lean Toledo, honestly. I know Thor's probably going to disagree with that, but I just think this is going to be a lower scoring game. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of sparks here. I think you're going to see, somewhat conservative game plans. And just, you put that number at 44.5, it seems kind of low. It's not low enough. This is going to be like maybe a 20-14 type of game to me. So I'm going to go on the under. And I think the only thing that scares me is that the public's on the under. But I agree with the public on this one. 7.5, you probably take Miami of Ohio getting that touchdown and a hook. I feel Toledo, but I'm not touching the side. That number stinks.
Yeah. I mean, when your gut tells you something, listen to it and either, bet it or leave it alone. That's what I say. Thor, when you look at the MAC title game, are you on the Red Hawks here? Are you on the Rockets? Which way are you going?
I rarely listen to my gut. That's why it's bad at all you can eat pizza buffets for me. Miami of Ohio plays this very specific kind of football where it's sort of like they're like the Iowa Hawkeyes of the G5. They run the slowest pace offense in the entire nation, 133rd. It's like they run a play, generally a run, especially now that Gabbert's out for the year because Avion Smith and all he does is scramble around. They'll run, then they let the play clock go down to 3 or 2 every single time. Now, we'll meander up to the huddle again and then, et cetera, et cetera. And they have a good defense. In fact, Miami's defense is so good, it's ranked 15th. In SP Plus, which might be the highest for a G5 team. And by the way, another parallel to Iowa with Miami has the number 1 special teams SP Plus rank in the entire nation. They don't have the talent that Toledo does. If this line was being based just on talent, Toledo should be a double-digit favorite. But whereas Miami, they keep all these games close. And to the point of the total, by the way, Miami has only had one game go over 46 points. I'm talking about the total since September 23rd. Because again, it's just a very slow, methodical thing. Play good special teams. We always want to have the field position advantage. Then we're going to play salty defense. We're going to wait for you to shoot yourself in the foot. That's how Miami, Ohio plays football. Toledo is a team where they can potentially be had here. Toledo is the clear class of the MAC in terms of talent. It's not even close. But with any of them, I mean, they dust everyone in terms of talent, but they've been playing down, relative. They should be annihilating some of these teams, but you look at some of their box scores. They only beat Bowling Green by 1 point. The last game against Miami, they only beat them by 4. Avion Smith was involved in that one at the end. Ball State, they beat 13-6. So you sort of go through those and you get a little Northern Illinois, they beat by 2. You start to get a little trepidatious about that, about how close Toledo plays. And that's already the prerogative of Miami, Ohio. I think I would lean towards Miami of Ohio with getting the points. I haven't pulled the trigger yet because you have to get over that mental hurdle of knowing that Toledo is so much more talented than them. I do agree with the underplay though, because Miami is able to enforce the way that they play football on even more talented teams. Toledo is going to get dragged into deep waters with them in terms of the very methodical pace, in terms of the, trying to avoid mistakes and everything like that, the low scoring game. I would be on the under, but I do lean Miami.
I just looked at our guy, Nick Allen's team strength rating on CFP Winning Edge, and it is absurd. The difference between Toledo and Miami of Ohio. It is ridiculous. So his line also is very different. So interesting there. Let's go to the to the Mountain West Championship in Las Vegas, Nevada. Again, the day after. 68% are on UNLV, who are plus 2.5 in this game. 58.5 is the total here. Tickets are 50-50 on the total, but cash is on the over. This is a tickets on UNLV, cash on Boise State. Thor, which side are you going in the Mountain West here?
This is such an interesting game because UNLV, they were the team that came out of nowhere and they've been awesome all year. But then at the very end of the season, they stubbed their toe against San Jose State and they obviously forced a 3-way tie that allowed Boise State to get here because the computers preferred them over San Jose State by the slimmest of margins. Boise State was a team we gave up for dead about a month ago. Right. There was all the problems with Andy Avalos. The players were not happy there. They had the injury to Ashton Jeanty. They were starting the wrong quarterback. They had this stupid, dopey offensive system where they couldn't start Talon Green anymore because of it. Then the quarterback gets injured 3 weeks ago. So they're forced back to Talon Green at the same time they decide to fire Andy Avalos. They win their last 2 games convincingly. That's how they rallied into this game. Now Boise State has all the momentum, but it's weird because they're sort of in this. They came up from the rear thing, not UNLV. So it's sort of like reverse things with that. I kind of like the over in this game for a couple of different reasons. Boise State's their defensive weakness, it's the run defense, 70th in rushing success rate, 86 marginal explosiveness. The UNLV offense and the go-go offense that Brennan Marion does, you have the 2 running backs back there with the quarterback, and then they just run crazy tempo. They put a lot of stress on any run defense. Boise State already doesn't have a very good one. You flip the field the other way. Boise, even with Talon Green in, they can generate the explosive passage because you have to load up against those 2 runners, especially when Talon's in. Because now you have Talon, you have Ginty, you have Holani. Like it's just so difficult to deal with that. And, and then when the defenses start to inch up, that's where we do the play action thing over the top. Because of that, Boise State's offense, 7th in marginal explosiveness. That is the biggest weakness of UNLV's defense. They get lit up for long passing plays all the time. 124th in that. UNLV's also 82nd in rushing explosion against UNLV's defense. So Boise State with Ginty back, Ginty, Holani, Green, that's an explosive running game. You're able to lean into that as well. This is a tough handicap for me on the side because both these 2 teams have been weird and played against type all year long. I would lean the over, though.
No, Farrell, what are your thoughts here? Are you on
I'm
the
going to
over
go
as well?
UNLV here. I don't know what happened last week. They've been playing well all season long. They stubbed their toe here and there. Obviously Michigan drilled them, but
didn't they have the best record against the spread for a long time?
I'm picking them every week, and it was working out well. And Fresno State was a weird one, but last week, I mean, they as Thor said, they gave up just too many explosive plays, and I know Barry Odom's pretty pissed about that. And this team is pretty focused. I thought Odom would be mentioned for certain jobs like the Syracuse job or the Houston job or all that stuff, but there's been very few distractions around the UNLV program. Marion's been mentioned for UTEP, but it's like they're pretty locked in and they're pretty pissed off from the situation they put themselves in. Boise State is very Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, they're getting better, they're playing better, but as Thor mentioned, the whole trajectory of this season has just been crazy. I don't trust them. So if you're going to give me points and you're going to give me the better team, I'm going to take UNLV.
All right. Before we go to the next group of conference championships, let me remind you about the Betting Pros app for iOS and Android. Use Sportsbook Sync to automatically track your bets across all major sportsbooks in one spot. Easily track your bet performance by sport and bet type, including game picks, props, and parlays. Get personalized bet recommendations tailored to your interests, including line alerts. When viewing a game of interest, simply set a game notification so that you are alerted once a line hits a certain number. At that point, you'll be notified so you can lock in your bet at the ideal line. Head over to bettingpros.com/apps to start setting your line alerts now, or download the Betting Pros app in the iTunes or Google Play stores today. All right, let's go to the big one, the SEC championship here, Farrell. Number 1 Georgia versus number 8 Alabama. The line is Georgia by 6, 55.5 is the total here. Taking some cash on Georgia. They're split on the under and the over. Who's going to win this game?
Georgia's going to win the game. I just don't know how much they're going to win it by. Obviously we saw a few of the things that we were concerned about with Alabama at the beginning of the season. There was some sloppy play, just mistakes, hurting themselves, and they hadn't done that a very long time. They still pulled out the game. It was kind of a miracle, and this game was going to happen no matter what. It doesn't really matter. But I'm leaning Georgia, but that's not what I'm taking. I'm taking the under here. 55.5. It's a good number. I think it's probably right in line with Thor's system or similar to it. But this is an SEC championship game. This is Kirby versus Saban. This is 2 defensive coaches. These are 2 teams that want to establish the run first. They want to play smash mouth. They want to be more physical than the other. I think you're going to see not a low-scoring game. I mean, this isn't Alabama LSU 100 years ago, 7-3 type of situation. But this could be a 20-17 game. It could be a 24-17 game. I just don't see this turning into a passing attack. Carson Beck's been awesome. He can throw the ball. Milroe, when he has to throw the ball, other than 4th and 31, That's not that they want to play. So I think both teams want to establish the run. Kendall Milton's been getting better and better. This running game for Alabama is getting better and better. Milroe's now a running, attack. He's a factor again in the run after like 4 weeks where he wasn't. Run-oriented game, clock, ball control, take the under.
Thor, your thoughts on the SEC title game? Are you rolling with Georgia? Georgia seems pretty unbeatable.
Yeah, I haven't locked in a bet yet, but if the line's under 6, I would lean Georgia. Right there. I would probably lean the over though. If in terms of the total, I think Georgia's going to be able to score on Alabama. The pass defense there, especially down the field. So Alabama's pass defense 67th in explosion. Carson Beck has shown he can throw down the field, and they have some weapons there, the speedy guys. And then Georgia's defense, their bugaboo has been the running game a little bit. Now, this will be interesting if Jace McClellan can or cannot play. But Georgia's defense, 81st in rushing success rate allowed, 84th opportunity rate, 88th power success rate. I do think they're going to be able to do a better job against Milroe as a runner than Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze, who the Auburn defense, they allowed Jalen Milroe to run for over 100 yards. It was like they weren't spying him when they were supposed to. And then like Farrell was talking about before, on the one play where it's like, you don't need to use a spy on this play, Hugh. He's like, send that spy out there. I'm sick of Jalen running all over us. So I would lean the over for those reasons. I can't take the points with Alabama. We talked about this all fall. I don't trust Alabama as far as I can throw them. The spread I think is more or less fair though. That's why I still haven't worked out an official play on it, but those would be my 2 leans right now.
All right, let's go over to the AAC championship game in New Orleans. It's SMU versus number 23, Tulane. Tulane is a 5.5-point favorite. 48 is the total here. Tickets and cash on SMU and the over here, Thor. Which way are you leaning in the AAC championship game?
That's the first time I'd heard the line's gotten up to 5.5. It doesn't surprise me, though. I was all over Tulane on Sunday. I got a 3.5 ticket. Last time I knew it was at 4.5. But again, not surprising that the market just keeps shoving the money in on Tulane and forcing the books to adjust.
Looks like it is still 4.5. I'll refresh here, but I guess I just got my wires crossed. So. Well,
I think it could be up to 6 by kickoff, potentially. Preston Stone's not playing. I mean, like, that is an enormous downgrade. You go from Preston Stone, one of the best quarterbacks in the G5, to Kevin Jennings, who is a low 3-star recruit, 6'0", sub 200 pounds, 36 career passing attempts. His only other scholarship offer coming out of high school from a team currently in the FBS. They were not an FBS school at the time. That was from Sam Houston. That was the only other sniff that Kevin Jennings got. Now Kevin Jennings is going to be starting for SMU in the title game here in the AAC, traveling to New Orleans to take on Tulane in their home building, a place where Tulane won this game last year. Right? Like, and Tulane this year, they go 11-1. The only loss they had was in mid-September to Ole Miss, when, by the way, Michael Pratt didn't play. And if you guys remember in that game, Tulane was way more frisky than they should have been with their backup quarterback going up against Ole Miss. Tulane's got everything going for them in this game. SMU's got to do it with the backup quarterback. Other point I'll make, Tulane's defensive weakness by far is their pass defense. They have a really good pass rush. But if you can deal with that, you can just get them all the way downfield and everything, nick them with the intermediate stuff and everything like that. Their secondary is not great. So one weakness they got there. I don't know that Kevin Jennings is going to be able to do that. And I don't know how he's going to deal with the pressure that Tulane reliably brings against every single opponent, where Tulane is awesome on defense. In addition to the pass rush, it's their run defense. So they're going to be able, like, if SMU is just like, oh, we'll just run the ball a lot more. Now you got to go into the teeth of what Tulane's defensive strength is. Good luck with that on their home turf. Game they won last year, like I said. This one's green wave all the way.
Yeah, I remember that Tulane versus Ole Miss game because I lost some money on that one. I was definitely going for Ole Miss in that game when Michael Pratt was out, but didn't work out. Mike, which way are you leaning in the AAC title game here?
I'm going Tulane. It's 4 right now, and it's going to get up to 6. They're a better football team. They have better depth. SMU's done a good, last year's done a good job coaching. Without Preston Stone, they really don't have a chance. I'm not sure why this number's so low. So hammer it now at 4 because it's going to get high.
Maybe I was just thinking it was going to be 5.5 at some point.
We were advancing the number to to what it's going to be. It's going to be 5.5 or 6.
Let's go to the
weekend.
Sun Belt Championship. This is App State at Troy. 6.5 is the line here in favor of the home team, Troy, and 52.5 is the total. Cash and tickets are just slightly on Troy, but they're pretty heavy on the over here, Mike. Do you have a good lean one way or the other in this game?
I like the over 52.5 is a little bit low here. I think this is going to be sort of a higher scoring game, not super crazy. I like Troy if I had to pick a side. Obviously, I think they're the more stable football team as far as consistency. You kind of know what you're going to get from them week to week, whereas App State's kind of up and down. But I'm going over here. I think this is going to be a 60 to 65 point total. Thor,
your thoughts on the Sun Belt Championship? Fun Belt.
Yeah, haven't bet it quite yet, but strong lean towards Troy. But Troy's a team I've liked all year. Appalachian St, a team that at the beginning of the season was terrible. Then they came on in part because of this new quarterback they got, Joey Aguilar. But as we talked about on the Sunday show, Aguilar may be close to turning into a pumpkin. So Aguilar, so far this year, he's thrown for 3,251 yards, 33-9 TDI&T ratio, 8.3 yards per attempt. And he spurred, Appalachian State coming back, and they upset James Madison and like all this sort of stuff. And so it's like, this guy's a stud. But then you look into some of the other metrics on him. PFF, his big time throw rate to turnover worthy throw rate, 28 big time throws, which is that's solid.
That's okay. Yeah.
25 turnover worthy plays.
That percentage being close is not good.
It's not good. And like you can think of it, it's like a fill-in for TDI&T rate, right? So you want double of the to, or more. In this case, just the turnover worthy throw play. Joey Aguilar is tied for number 3 in the nation in those with the 25. The only two guys ahead of him, Thomas Castellanos and Davis Pickle Bryn, our friend. The guy that he is tied with is Keon Jenkins, the stinky quarterback from FIU. Keon Jenkins, his TDI&T rate, by the way, is 11-11. That's the guy tied with Aguilar in terms of his turnover-worthy plays. And obviously Aguilar, he has been able to avoid the disaster to this point. Troy has the awesome defense, and Troy also has a balanced offense. They spread you out. It's a quick-hitting passing game, keep you out of the box, and then they run with Kamani Gore-Vidal and rack up efficiency in terms of that stuff. So between that stuff, their experience in this spot, and me not super-duper trusting Aguilar, I got to go with Troy.
All right, gentlemen, let's go over to the ACC championship game. Number 10, Louisville versus number 5, Florida State. FSU is a 2.5 point favorite. 48.5 is the total. This game being played in Charlotte, North Carolina. The public is on FSU for tickets, but cash is on Louisville. Both sides are big on the under in this game with Tate Rodemaker again. Thor, your thoughts on the ACC title game?
The books gave me a gift on Sunday with Louisville plus 4.5. I knew that was a gift. I knew I wasn't going to be there very long, so I took it and ran out the door. Very happy with that ticket. Still all over Louisville. Books, I don't need your points in this one. Louisville is going to win this game. Tate Rodemaker stinks. And Tate Rodemaker, we were talking about this before the show. Tate Rodemaker, it's not, some people haven't seen him, whatnot, and you think like, oh, maybe he's got some dormant potential. This kid's been on campus for 4 years. Every time we've seen him, he's not been good. He doesn't have a mobility aspect to his game. He turns the ball over too much. He's not a good thrower. In this past game last week against Florida, and for people out there that don't know this contextually, Florida has one of the worst pass defenses in the entire FBS. It is legitimately atrocious. That is what you attack when you play Florida. Tate Rodemaker didn't even complete 50% of his passes in that game, despite the fact he's working with Keon Coleman, who's a round 1 receiver, Johnny Wilson, maybe day 2, else high day 3, and Jaheim Bell, the tight end, the move piece. He's going to get drafted in the NFL as well. And he still couldn't do anything against, again, one of the worst pass defenses in the nation. Now you got to go up against this Louisville team that has a crazy underrated defense. That's what they've sort of been led by this year. Can Louisville scratch out enough points against the Florida State defense? I think so, because I don't think they're going to need to do much to score more than the Tate Rodemaker offense there. And by the way, I don't think Trey Benson's going to be able to pitch in much either. Last week, he got like 90 some yards against Florida. Most of them came from 2 runs. He had 2 runs in the second half that ended up going for touchdowns. Florida's defense isn't very good. And you take away those 2 runs, it was like 17 carries for like 30 yards or 25 yards or like something like that. Louisville has a way better defensive front than Florida does. If Florida State thinks, behind Trey Benson, we're going to win this game, it's not going to happen. Between Jack Plummer, between Garendo, between Jordan, Louisville's going to be able to put up enough points here. This one's Louisville all the way. I also agree with the market in terms of the under. That was another bet that I made earlier this week. For all the reasons that I stated, the Florida State offense is now impotent with Tate Rodemaker. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. Louisville's going to win this game, and we're going to get out of the national nightmare of having to see Tate Rodemaker in a college football playoff game.
Farrell, are you in agreement here? Do you think Louisville can win this game straight up and maybe take them on the money line? It's not good juice. It's like plus 115 if you're taking them on the money line. This is the smallest spread of any of the conference championship games.
Yeah. I don't trust either team, so I'm going to go under because I do trust what Thor said about Rodemaker and that offense is just horrible. The difference between Jordan Travis and that offense and Tate Rodemaker is alarming. He can't utilize any of the weapons he has. I mean, he targets Johnny Wilson more than he should because he's 8 feet tall. He can't accurately throw to a 6'8" wide receiver. He can't throw to a wide receiver. He can't throw to the biggest, most talented, group of wide receivers. You mentioned Bell and Morlock, and they've got guys that you just have to get the ball within 3 yards of their catch radius, and he can't even do that. He's terrible. Louisville, I don't trust. I haven't trusted him all season long. I think they're a year ahead of schedule. Jeff Brom is a great coach. He's a good fit, but they do have a defense, and the secondary is also very, very good when it comes to NFL talent. That's a problem. Florida State's going to have to try to run heavy. They're going to have to try to keep the ball, keep out of 3rd and longs, keep the ball away from Rodemaker. This one's going to go under because Louisville's got a good defense and Florida State has no offense whatsoever. Florida State has a good defense. Louisville has an offense I don't trust. So give me the under on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm heavy on the under here. I do think that, there's a possibility that the playmakers just win it for Florida State. You know what I mean? Because there are good playmakers, but yeah.
They could win the game.
Rodemaker's going to have to be way better, though. Way, way, way better. It's too much of an improvement.
That's how bad Florida sucks.
Yeah.
That's how bad they are. That's how bad Sunbelt Billy and this team have become.
And by the way, Florida State, they needed so much help from Florida to win that game. You guys recall Florida early on in that game was controlling it, and they were up with 8 minutes left in that game. But between the play, Mike, I saw you put that up on your Twitter. Between the player that was hitting the coach's hand off him, between the 2 ejections on the Gators side, between all the mistakes they were making on special teams, the lack of discipline, it was like they just kept being like, Florida State, you're undefeated. Don't you want to still have your shot to go to the college football? We're just going to give you the game. And so Florida State finally was like, fine, we'll take it. Right. But Louisville is not going to be as generous this weekend.
All right, let's go to the last game here, the last conference championship to talk about. Michigan is a 23-point favorite against Iowa in the Big Ten championship, in Indianapolis. The money and the cash and tickets, are on the Michigan side. We have tickets on the over here because it is so low, but 55% of cash is on the under, of course, because it's Iowa, Mike. Is this game going to go under? Can it possibly go under?
It can go under. So Michigan might as well be, that's not fair. Michigan can play like a Big Ten West team if they want to. I mean, obviously we saw second half against Penn State, they did not throw the football. They can play a very slow, methodical offense, and they can try to out-physical you, and I think that's what they're probably going to do against Iowa, because Iowa is a really good offense. They're going to try to wear them down. They're going to try to run the ball, play action, all that good stuff. The line is ridiculous. I mean, if you look at that line, you're like, okay, I'll take Iowa getting 23 points, but then you think Iowa's going to score 3 points in this football game. That's it. Cade McNamara is sharing all his secrets. Who cares? The offense is terrible. Terrible. They're going to score 3 points. So that is the question is, okay, so what's the score going to be when we get Iowa is going to score 3? Is it going to be 23-3? And Iowa's going to cover? Is it going to be 26-3? Is it going to be 30-3? But whatever it is, it's going to be under that 35.5. So I'm taking the under. I'm looking at this as similar to a Big Ten West, game, which I've won so much money all season long on going the under.
Thor, are you taking the under in this game, or is Michigan going to score enough to put it over?
Thor's going to take Iowa. Watch. He's going to take Iowa.
Well, you guys know, world's biggest Hawkeye fan over here, and Mike, we've been on the under Ponzi scheme with Iowa all season. We've been riding that. Michigan is going to annihilate Iowa in this game, and not only that, I think Michigan is going to get over that total by themselves. So a little history lesson for people out there. First of all, earlier this season, Iowa, and by the way, I'll say in their defense, they should be 11-1. The refs stole one game from them fraudulently. The PJ Fleck against Fleck in the Gophers.
I had the -2 in that game, so I remember that one too.
I won't even get into it.
Guess what I had? I had the under, and it came in.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's what you usually do. The one game where Iowa legitimately lost this year, it was to Penn State, a team who is, on the line of continuum to Michigan, but Michigan's way better than them. Penn State beat Iowa in that game 31-0. Cade McNamara actually started in that one. Deacon Hill got in for the at the very end or whatever. Cade McNamara went 5 for 14 for 42 yards. Iowa as a team threw for 56. Their running game was even worse. Iowa ran 17 times for 20 yards. That was the totality of Iowa's offense against Penn State's defense, which is not as good as Michigan's. One other thing in our history lesson, let's go back to the 2021 Big Ten football championship game between these two very same teams. And a lot of guys, especially on the Michigan side, are playing in this game. Blake Corum was in that game. Donovan Edwards was in that game, et cetera, et cetera. Roman Wilson was in that game. That one was Michigan 42, Iowa Hawkeyes 3. The last point I'll make about this game, Iowa started out this season with a little bit of offensive talent, maybe theoretically. Cade McNamara, Luke Lachey, Eric All. You had a really good tight end group and different stuff like that. All three of those guys are done for the season. Iowa also has two of their top receivers. Kirk Ferentz does currently not know whether those guys are going to play in this game, Deontay Vines and Caleb Brown. Iowa doesn't have anything on literally nothing. Deacon Hill is, I love Deacon, and we do the Deacon blues and everything. He's one of the worst starting FBS court. That guy should be in the FCS. I'm sorry. I like to have fun with him, but not very good. Iowa can run mediocre-ish when they're playing mediocre competition. They can't when they're playing a Penn State or a Michigan. We've seen this time and time again. This one's all Wolverines. I think the Wolverines get over that total by themselves.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for this week. We will take next week off as there are no games, but we should be back the following week. So remember, you can follow us all on Twitter at Bogman Sports for myself, at Thor KU for Thor, and at M Farrell Sports, 2 R's, 2 L's for Mike. And we will see you guys then. Take it easy, everybody.